in the letters of John. And as you probably know, we've been spending 7 weeks looking at what it looks like to abide with God. And so this week is the last week we're going to be talking about that. Not, of course, right, the last week for us to be abiding, but for our last week to be spending time in these letters. And today we're going to look at the last one, 3 John. And I think the best way to summarize 3 John is the issue of hospitality. What does hospitality look like? What does it look like in our homes, in our personal lives, in the way we give, in the way we treat the people at our church? And so we're going to be talking about that today through the lens of 3 John. And I want to start with this basic idea. The world gets hospitality wrong. And when I say wrong, I mean 180 degrees wrong. How many of you guys know of Henry Nouwen? Any other Henry Nouwen fans in the house? I'm the only one. Awesome, there's a couple of us. No longer with us, made some interesting decisions in his life, but he was an incredible spiritual thinker, and one of the things he wrote a lot about was this issue of hospitality. He wrote this, and I love it. Hospitality means primarily the creation of free space where the stranger can enter and become a friend instead of an enemy. Hospitality is not to change people, but to offer them space where change can take place. There's 2 things I want to pop off the screen here for you. The first one is that word stranger. Hospitality is welcoming strangers. Not just people we know, right? People we don't. That's true hospitality. The other thing I want you to notice is we don't welcome people in to change them. We welcome in to give them space where God can change them and grow them. And I think grow us and change us in the process. But the world generally, we do this completely wrong. Let me show you what hospitality wrong looks like. Welcome. Let me show you my stuff. Right? We invite people over. We invite them. Let me show you my place. Let me show you what I have. That's not hospitality at all. True hospitality is in fact quite the opposite. Welcome. Please let me see your stuff. Please let me see who you are, how you are doing. Hospitality wrong looks like this, right? Welcome. Let me tell you how I'm doing. We invite people over, we invite them in, and we just tell them how we are. That's not hospitality. Hospitality is the exact opposite of that. Welcome. Let me please see how you are doing. Let me check in with you. I hope you've noticed a pattern here. Hospitality wrong is focused on me. Us, I. That's not hospitality. Hospitality done right is focused on you, the other, the stranger, the one who may not feel welcome. That's what hospitality done right looks like. Now, for more specifics, let's take a look at 3 John. We're going to look at verses 1 through 8 to get started. Starting with verse 1. The elder to the beloved Gaius, whom I love in truth. Beloved, I pray that all may go well with you, and that you may be in good health, just as it is well with your soul. I was overjoyed when some of the friends arrived and testified to your faithfulness to the truth, namely how you walk in the truth. I have no greater joy than this, to hear that my children are walking in the truth. Beloved, you do faithfully whatever you do for the friends, even though they are strangers to you. They have testified to your love before the church. You'll do well to send them on in a manner worthy of God, for they began their journey for the sake of Christ, accepting no support from non-believers. Therefore, we ought to support such people, so that we may become co-workers with the truth. Now, this passage gives us a few aspects, facets, if you will, of what hospitality looks like. The first thing I want you to notice is how he greets this Gaius. He says, the beloved Gaius, whom I love in truth. Love and truth. And I'm grateful that last week Roger covered for me and he talked with you guys about this, about love and truth and love, and they are inseparable. They cannot be pulled apart. They're the 2 dominant themes of God's word. And here, John's reminding that there's a true love in Gaius. I love you truly. Now, if there is a true love, that means there's also a false love, right? And this is a love I think sometimes we see in the world. A love that somehow equates with acceptance, when love has never, ever, ever been about acceptance. Love is about love just for love's sake, right? It means we as the church stand for true love. Now, when you see true love, I don't mean just this gushy, like fairy tale type of love. Like a very real, sacrificial, giving, kind of hospitable, abiding love. That's true love. And John reminds us of this right off the bat, that hospitality has to include that kind of true love. And then he makes a really positive and encouraging wish. I want you to notice in verse 2 says, I want all to go well with you, that you be in good health, just as it is well with your soul. Now, there is one word that's used twice in the same verse. The Greek word is euo-do-o. Kind of fun to say, right? Euo-do-o. And it's translated prosper or succeed. So we have this world where oftentimes many people are being pulled to what is called the prosperity gospel. You may have heard of it, okay? I think it's really important that we understand the nature of prosperity and what is okay to hope for and pray for and what is not. Here, John teaches it's actually okay to pray for the prosperity of other people. It's a good thing. That's what John wishes here, right? For this whole group of people. So we know it's not bad to pray for the prosperity of others. The danger is when you go further than that. The danger is when you presume that the gospel leads to prosperity. That's why the so-called prosperity gospel is dangerous. It is dangerous to say, because I follow Jesus, all will go well with me. When it's that same Jesus who told his disciples, leave everything and follow me. Who said we should be carrying our cross. The gospel does not necessarily lead to prosperity always in this life. That's the danger of that gospel. The other danger is this, that we presume that because someone is not prosperous, that God is absent, or that they're not following God. Think of Job here. Think of Job's friends, right? When things are going poorly for Job, his friends are like, Job, what are you doing wrong? Because things aren't going well for you. No. You cannot necessarily assume because someone is following the gospel that everything will go well with them, and you also can't presume because things aren't going well for a believer of Jesus Christ that God is absent and that he is not there. But it is okay to pray and encourage people to be prosperous. You just got to keep that in light of the entire gospel, the entire word of God. Okay? This faithfulness to the truth is what John is encouraging here. He's really excited. He's like dorkily excited about this. He's like, you guys are following Jesus. He's being really pumped that they are just doing what God has told them to do. He's celebrating truth much like he celebrated love for all of these letters. There's been a lot of talk about love, right? And rightfully so. But here he says, I'm so grateful that you guys are living out the truth. I think about it this way. The truth must come out of your feet and your hands, not just your mouth. It's not just what we say that's the truth, right? It's what we do with our hands. It's where we go. It's what we give. And John's applauding the people here, and I think he would be applauding us for the times that we are faithful to the truth of Jesus Christ. And he says, one thing you're doing well is you're welcoming brothers and sisters or friends, but you'll notice here, he says you're welcoming them even though they're strangers. Does anyone have this welcome mat in front of your house? If you do, that would be awesome, right? But usually we put out that welcome mat, right? And we put it out because that's for the people we know. Well, John's going to push us a little bit and say, no. Hospitality is actually putting a big strangers below it, where we actually welcome people we don't know. I've seen this sometimes in people's homes. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this one. Welcome. Enter as strangers, leave as friends. That's hospitality. Where we intentionally welcome in people we do not know, and then as we do that, of course, they're no longer strangers. They're now friends. That's what hospitality looks like. Now, that's what it looks like in our homes, but guess what? This also applies to our church. The problem, I think, with applying to the church is many people come into church and they think this. That moment you get to church and someone is in your seat. And that feeling like, oh man, that's my seat. But the newsflash, the reminder for all of us, right, is it's not your seat. Not your seat. It's not my seat. These are our seats. This is our church. These were put in place not for us all the time, but for others to come and sit in our seats because they're God's seats. And in fact, when we come in and someone's sitting in your seat, this is how you should be feeling. Right? We should be excited that someone's sitting in our seats. We see someone in our seat, we should go over to them and give them a piece of our... No, right? We see someone sitting in our seat, we should go up and say, hey, I've never met you. I've never seen you here. My name's Scott. How are you? That's the reaction we should have when people are in our seats, because they're not our seats. That's what true hospitality looks like. Now, as I think about this, I got to think about the people at these doors, our greeters. I hope all of you, right, saw a greeter when you came in this morning. This is such an important part of the ministry of every church. And we can always use more. I think every church on the planet could put up this sign, greeters needed. That's why on your Connect card, you're seeing there's a little spot there. If you would come forward on any given morning and say, I'm going to be out front and be the first smile that someone sees when they show up at church. I'll be the first handshake they receive, the first hug they receive. I don't know if you're a hugger, right? It's such an important part of the ministry of every single church. I get to hear it on the positive end when I talk to people who are new, and they'll say, I was greeted so warmly this morning. I am so grateful for our greeters. But I know the greeting can be done wrong. So when I was gone, I visited another church on Sunday, right? Because it's church on a Sunday, and I got to go somewhere. And so I go to this church, and I walked in the door, and the greeter, and this is not at the main door, but it was like the secondary door, she handed me a program, and she kind of looked down, and she goes, good morning. I said, good morning. You guys ever out-greeted a greeter? It's really fun. I really encourage you to do it. Like, give them a hug. Good morning. Right? That's the kind of greeting we're looking for. And I've seen our greeters, sometimes on days, on weeks where I know things have not gone particularly well for them, but they set all that aside. They show up at God's church, and they say, I'm going to go forward with a smile and a handshake and a hug. That's what hospitality looks like. And if that's you, I would really encourage you on that Connect card, check that box. Let us know. You can put it in the tithing bag when you step on out of here. It's a fundamental part of what we need to be doing as a church, is greeting people well. And part of that hospitality, right, is without complaint. When I was thinking about hospitality, remember that passage from 1 Peter. Be hospitable to one another without complaining. Sometimes those last two words is the toughest part. I think this is the time of year that's a really good reminder about this. Thursday is kind of a big deal, right? Got a pretty big holiday coming up. And you guys know what Thanksgiving means. You get a bunch of family that comes to your house, right? Or you go to family's house and you're really excited about it. I hear some people sometimes actually say to me, I just got to survive the holidays. That's not hospitality. Hospitality is without complaint, where we actually say, I am grateful that I have family, I have friends that are coming to my house. I'm grateful that I get to go to other people's homes, whether they agree with everything you believe or not. Just don't talk about politics. Talk about Jesus. Talk about your faith. Talk about how they are actually and truly doing. That's hospitality, right? Where we go into it warmly and openly without complaint. And may this Thanksgiving be a wonderful opportunity for you guys to show that. Just your gratefulness for life in general, what you have, completely and totally without complaint. Now, you may have noticed that this isn't easy. True hospitality, it's somewhat challenging. That's what I call the vulnerability of hospitality, where you have to be open to hospitality, right? You have to be open to other people. We got to open the doors of our homes. We got to open the doors of our churches. We got to open the doors of our minds, our hearts, our eyes, and see people maybe we don't otherwise know. It can be hard. But is it rewarding? Absolutely. It's incredibly fulfilling. And if you've had this experience, awesome. Between services, literally, someone went into our coffee hour over here in the Agape room and intentionally just went up to people that they did not know and found out that literally one of them knew someone that they already knew and brought them into the fold of this church. That's what we should be doing. It's a little challenging, but God and John is calling us to do exactly that. Now, I want to encourage you guys this morning, just like John encouraged them here at the end of this passage. He says, you guys are sending people on in a manner worthy of God. And he says you're supporting people, right? And when you do that, you're becoming co-workers with the truth. And I want you to see here this morning that you guys already do this well. These 311 boxes represent hospitality. Your opening up of what you have to other people. And there's 3 examples of ways that we do hospitality already. Supporting missionaries. So we as a church, when we tithe, right, a portion of our tithe goes to missionaries already around the world. That's you being a coworker with the truth. Thank you for that. Look at this next thing. Supporting mission trips, right? When you guys sent us to Ecuador, when you helped us go to another country and bless other people, that's you guys being hospitable, being co-workers with the truth. And last, just your support of missions in general. Whether it's here at the church or generally, when you support any Christian mission, that's you being hospitable. And I hope you feel the encouragement and the gratitude that I feel, and I think that God feels when we participate with him in that kind of hospitality. You're a co-worker with the truth. There's not much more that can be said for that. Be a co-worker with the truth. Let's look at the next few verses, 9 through 12. I've written something to the church, but Diotrephes, who likes to put himself first, does not acknowledge our authority. So if I come, I will call attention to what he's doing in spreading false charges against us. And not content with those charges, he refuses to welcome the friends. It even prevents those who want to do so and expels them from the church. Beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but imitate what is good. Whoever does good is from God. Whoever does evil has not seen God. Everyone has testified favorably about Demetrius, and so is the truth itself. We also testify for him, and you know that our testimony is true. So the first basic takeaway from this is don't be a Diotrephes. Don't be this guy, right? John calls him out and says he is putting himself first. Don't put yourself first. Remember we put up all those examples of wrong hospitality and right hospitality? Wrong hospitality puts me first, puts us first. And John says, don't do that. Don't be that guy. And the other problem with it is he doesn't acknowledge the authority of other people. And John says, we know better than that as Christians. There is ultimately authority over all of us. The authority of God, the authority of his word, the authority of the leaders of his church, right? And he says, if you want to be hospitable, you cannot put yourself first, and you have to acknowledge the authority of someone else over my life, over this building, over our home. That's what real hospitality looks like. And you'll notice John is not stepping around this, right? He is calling out what is false. He says he's going to come and call this out. Why does he do that? Because falsehood festers in silence. When we don't call out what is false, what is evil, what is wrong, it's like a festering wound on the body of Christ. And John's not going to put up with it. He says, if this man is sending false charges against us, we're going to call it out. Lovingly, graciously, right? He doesn't do it in a nasty way, but he says this needs to be called out. Because if you don't treat a wound, right, things get bad fast. And one of those wounds in the church is falsehood, and John is not going to put up with it. But then he mentions this Demetrius. He says, don't be a Diotrephes, right? But look at Demetrius. And he talks about how welcoming he and others have been. And I think of this idea of fellowship, right? Fellowship welcomes other people. Usually when you say fellowship, people think about fellowship with people they know. John says, no. Fellowship welcomes people you don't know. When I think about fellowship, you guys know me, I'm pretty literal. And when I look at this word, I literally see those two words together, fellow and ship. I love ships. I love boats. I did maritime law for years. And I see this picture of a ship of fellow people, fellow men, fellow women. But the funny thing about this ship is it's an ever-expanding ship. Fellowship, there's always room for more, right? We can always make room at the table. We can always make room at the church. We can always make room in our homes. We can always make room in our lives. That's fellowship. Is it good to come to church, right, and to fellowship together and encourage each other? Absolutely. But don't stop there. Take the time to look for someone maybe you don't know. And I'm telling you, folks, when you come to church and you change your mentality and you start doing this, it'll radically change the way you come to church. To see people you know, and then actually intentionally look for people you don't, and make them no longer strangers, and watch them become friends. That's what hospitality looks like. That's what true fellowship looks like. It's the welcoming of other people. And then he points out, he says, do not imitate what is evil. So part of this hospitality thing, it's part of calling out what we do right and what we do wrong. And he says, do not imitate evil. Even in this area of hospitality, in our homes and in our churches, if you think about this, this could truly change everything in your life. Everything. When you say, I am not going to imitate evil anymore, including the way I welcome people into my very life. And think about this in terms of hospitality, right? When you think about this, you're acting hospitable to God. He says here, if you do what is good, you're from God. If you don't, never seen him. So when we do good, when we follow what God tells us to do, we're being hospitable to him. It's if we say, God, we got room for you right here. But the opposite is also true, right? If we do evil, that means we're being hospitable to the evil one. This is a radical and dramatic choice that you and I make every day, sometimes every minute. Who do you want to be hospitable to? God or the evil one? Let's look at the last couple verses. I have much to write to you, but I'd rather not write with pen and ink. Instead, I hope to see you soon, and we will talk together face to face. Peace to you. The friends send you their greetings. Greet the friends there, each by name. So the last part of the last letter, John gives us a reminder that was applicable then, and it's especially, I think, applicable now. He says the best way to communicate is face to face. He could have written a whole bunch more, right? But he says, no, I'm not going to do that because I want to talk to you. I want to see you. Today, I think this message is just as important. Today, most of us carry around these, right? Which can be very helpful. I really enjoy my phone. I love being able to get a hold of people quickly. I love texting. I like social media. But you know what I don't like? When people hide behind a screen. And I'm not just talking about walking down the street holding this out in front of your face. That's just dangerous. What I'm talking about is when we pull these out, and you guys know this, you've seen this, people post nasty things online. When they send text messages to people that you know they didn't think long and hard about before they sent it. Where they go on their computer screen and we send out some nasty email, not thinking that on the other side of this screen is a person with a mind and a heart. Because it's easy to hide behind this, right? And send something nasty when you don't see their reaction. But put this down. Look at them face to face and notice the way this has to change the way we communicate with each other. Because once we do that, right, that requires patience. When we have to sit face to face with someone, have a tough conversation, you got to be patient. You got to wait for the right thing to say. We got to listen, which requires a little self-restraint, right, that we hold and we find out how the other person is actually doing. It requires love, of course, that we speak these things lovingly face to face. And you're going to know when you don't because you can see their eyes. You can see the look on your face, on their face when you're talking to them. And of course it requires the truth because John says if it's false, we got to call it out. The best way to communicate remains face to face. And there's a time and a place where we got to put this down and just get in front of each other and speak the truth in love. Now the other thing he puts at the end, and I love that he throws this in, John says, when you greet these others, I want you to greet them by name. It's a little thing that goes a long way. Right? Just to remember someone's name. It can be a short thing. My name's nice and short. It's 5 letters. But the fact that you know it, you remember it, and you called it out, it's significant. It's big, right? Because it says that I know you. And deep inside, that's what we all want. We want to feel known. We want to feel known. Now, I will acknowledge that this is an area I struggle with. And I have my entire life. My memory is just bad. So I'm not good with names. This could be why when you and I have talked, maybe for the first time, I probably repeated your name over and over again. And I might have said something like, and your name is John, right? because I actually don't want to hide behind this weakness, and I want to fix it. I want to work on it. I actually want to make sure that I do get to know your name and call you by it, because it's a big thing. Little, easy thing that can go a long way to the person who feels known on the other end of your hospitality. But as we close out this letter, as we close out the sermon, as we close out the series, what I want to remind you guys more than anything else, because remember, we've been talking about abiding with God, is that God knows you by name. He knows your first name. He knows your middle name. He knows your last name. That's just the name your parents gave you, right? He knows the spiritual gifts he put in you. He knows your talents. He knows how many hairs you got on your head. God knows you by name. So be hospitable to him. Let him in. Welcome him in completely. What I want to do at the end of the service today, we're going to have a few more songs, and I'm going to come up and invite the staff and elders up. I want to give you all an opportunity to say, yeah, God, I want you in my house. And if that's you and you've never done that before in your whole life, please, may today be the day you say, yeah, I want you in. Jesus, I want you in completely into my life. Or if you're sitting there and you're like, I've actually asked Jesus in, but there's that one room, I haven't really let him in. May today be the day you come forward. Let us pray for you and encourage you so you really open up everything you are to God. Because that's what abiding looks like. That's what hospitality looks like. And when we take communion, we got to remember that. This is what hospitality looks like to God, right? Jesus Christ welcomed the unworthy with what he did on that cross. Hospitality to God looks like giving of self for people who don't deserve it. That's hospitality. Let me pray before we take communion in a minute, just during the next few songs. Father God, I thank you so much that you've given us these 3 letters from John. The reminder that you want to abide with us, you want to be near us. And today, God, the reminder that you want us to be hospitable to you and to others.